right, everyone, we'd like to call to order the July 11th, 2022 East Ascension Drainage District Number 1 meeting. Roll call, we are missing Commissioner Ogeron and Commissioner Wagaspack. Now I will ask Mr. Cagnalotti to lead us in the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, we ask your blessings on us tonight as we conduct the business of the people of Ascension Parish with regards to drainage. Protect us during this hurricane season, keep our citizens safe, and keep them from any hazard and any danger. We ask this through your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kay. Moving on to item number 3, public comment. If anyone, if anyone in the crowd would like to speak on any of the agenda items, please see Ms. Daigle over here. She will give you a red card or a green card and get that up to us. Chairman's reports, announcements, I have none. Number 5, 5A, the acceptance of the May 9th, 2022 meeting minutes.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Casso, a second by Mr. Lambert. Any comments, any objection? Hearing none. Moving on to 5B, the acceptance of the June 13th, 2022 meetings. Motion by Mr. Cagnalotti, a second by Mr. Mason. No objection, no comments. So moved. Moving on to general business, item 6A, approval of the proposal to itemize combined projects for the concrete lining of the ditch that runs through Bayou Francois. We had Mr. Jared Monso from Hortman. I do have a motion from Mr. Cagnalotti. I have a second from Mr. Lawler. Are there any questions, comments, objections? If not, we'll let Mr. Monso go.
Any questions?
Good? All right, hearing no objections, motion so moved. Thank you, Jared. Item 6C, approval of the lowest bid Morvenboro storm surge protection. Mr. Dean Thomason.
6B? We're in B.
Oh, B, I'm sorry, I apologize. 6B, approval amendment number 7 with H&TB Flood Management to extend a master contract through August 7, 2023. This is an extension strictly of time, and this is not a dollar addition. We have a motion from Mr. Cagnalotti, a second from Mr. Mason. Any questions, any objections? Hearing none. Now we're on C, approval of the lowest bid for the Morvenboro storm surge protection. Mr. Dean.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Robert, a second by Mr. Lambert. I do have just one question.
Okay.
Are we okay on our bids?
What we're gonna do, Chairman, is ask y'all, we do have the money to accept the bid.
Okay.
And then we're gonna do a change order valued engineer
Okay.
to reduce it back down. So I'll be coming back to y'all with that change order.
Gotcha. Okay. I believe we had like roughly $3 million budgeted for the
Yes,
job.
and I did refer to Ms. Dorn in Finance before we came here tonight.
Okay.
And she says we do have the funding to cover this project. We can move forward.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Any more questions? Any objections to accepting the lowest? I did have a motion in a second, didn't I? Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay. Hearing none. So moved. 6E. I do have a public speaker. Ms. Ashley Busby is in favor and would like to speak.
I have some photos I'd like to show.
Yes, ma'am. The little projector right there in front of you. If you set it right there, if you give Mr. Jarius a minute, he will he'll get it turned on for you. Let him turn your microphone on for you.
In September of 2019, a work order was submitted for my property and the property next door. Right in between these two houses along my driveway is a series of sinkholes. And when we first moved there 2 years ago, in August of 2020, I started filling the holes and noticed that it kept washing away. And that's because of the sinkholes. And what I'm finding is the more it rains, the faster the sediment and everything is washing away onto Jefferson Highway. And the problem with that is it's continuously causing damage to the home. So this first picture right here actually shows a picture that I took on June 30th. And so the biggest part, or the deepest part of the biggest sinkhole was 30 inches in depth. In just 11 days, it has grown to 6 more inches.
Where's Jefferson Highway on
It's behind Sammy's Grill. Jefferson Highway.
No, I mean, I know where, yeah. Am I on the right item? No, maybe I'm on the wrong item. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I'm on.
On 6E?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I think we skipped one. That's what it was. We said, yeah.
Oh,
I was like, yeah, no.
Just go ahead and keep.
yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm all over the place tonight. I apologize.
That's okay. So within 11 days, we have seen 6 inches of the ground wash away with all the rain that we've had. And the biggest problem that we're seeing is I've brought some pictures of the damage that it's causing to those two homes along the series of sinkholes. You can see this is the outside of one of the homes and all the cracks that it's causing inside, on the outside of that home.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Now, is it, I'm confused. We're on the NWI.
No, we're on the.
You're on E.
Yeah, E, approval to enter in contract for
I think we
$41,750
skipped
with.
D. We skipped D.
We
That's
skipped
why I
D.
was confused.
Okay.
We had one before that in Roddy Road and Church Point. Like, I know where Jefferson is, but this is not it.
Okay, so is everybody on the same page now?
Yeah. Discussion.
We're talking about the $41,000 repair to Jefferson Oaks
Gotcha.
Drive.
Okay, that's right. I'm sorry. I skipped D. It's my fault. I apologize.
Okay.
Okay.
And so this last part is just some of the pictures of the interior of my home that we're seeing damage to, as well as, we've got like 25 feet of cracks in the tile that's running across, which is near the biggest sinkhole. So there's cracks in the crown molding too.
I'll second Joel's motion.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion to approve by Mr. Robert, a second by Mr. Mason. Any questions, any concerns? Any objections? I'm
One
sorry.
discussion, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's go ahead, Mr. Lambert.
And who has this, Jade or Ron?
Either one, we can take care of it.
So is this our servitude in between these two houses?
Yes, it's
Has-
a dedicated public servitude, and we had another company go in and camera the inside of the pipe. And that's where they came up with the solution would need to be repaired inside the pipe with a slip liner.
So are we gonna align these, or how the repair is gonna happen?
Due to the location of the pipe to the home and driveway, to keep from getting any more damage from excavation or any type of work, so we're gonna go in and slip line this pipe to support
Okay,
it, then we can
perfect.
fix it from the top side.
Okay.
It's just not able to be dug up.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
that's what I wanted to hear.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I did have one question. Am I allowed to ask a question?
Sure.
My question that I had was, there was a certain bid or amount that was put on that. Once they go in, if there's more damage found, does it come back before the drainage board to be voted on, or how does that work?
Yeah, if there was a change order, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's probably some surface work that we do, our sinkhole crew, after the problem has been fixed with the pipe, and then we may come in and do some soil work or whatever, compaction and things like that, after the pipe is fixed. Got to fix the problem first, and that's what this contract is. We don't normally have that as a service, so we needed to contract that of slip lining the pipe out. Once that's fixed, then our crews can go help with any of the sinkhole and that has happened.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Robert, a second by Mr. Mason, was it? By Mr. Mason. Hearing no objections, that motion passes. So now I'm gonna jump back, Ms. Leslie, to 6D. Discussion approval to enter into negotiations and to purchase the property west of DPW on Church Point Road.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Mr. Lawler, a second by Mr. Mason, and Ms. Lawler, you want to speak?
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to tell y'all, thank y'all for doing this. I don't know if y'all weren't around, or Ron, you were, and a lot of us up here were, probably about 5-6 years ago. They wanted to buy property on the other side, which we brought up this idea, we said, let's do this. It never happened. But this gives us access to Roddy Road and Church Point. It's a great idea. It really has to be done, and it gives DPW a lot more space. So, good job, guys.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Yeah, so when we first took a look at this, we're also going to get appraisals on A1A and A13A, just in case the owner, when we spoke to the owner of A1A, is a possibility of selling. So once we get these appraisals done, we'll bring that back to y'all, let y'all look at those amounts, and we can decide on whether we want to make an offer on A1A as well. A13 wants to retain where their house is, willing to sell the back. What this will have us the ability to do is to move some things around and possibly get a certified chip site at Church Point for smaller storms. Obviously, nothing like Ida because of the massive amount of debris that we had, but certainly smaller storms of having a certified chip site on our yard would be huge for us to be able to recoup a lot of funds or through grants. That's it, Chair.
All right. All right, we have a motion by Mr. Lawler, a second by Mr. Mason. Any objection? Hearing none?
Chase,
Oh.
y'all originally made a motion, Robert and Mason, and then y'all did another one for Lawler and Mason. So which one?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So which one are we gonna go with?
I'm gonna go with the Lawler Mason.
Okay.
Does she have one for the first one?
For E?
Do you have one for E?
Yeah, that was Robert Mason.
For what, the property on Church Point? Mm-hmm. Are we talking about that one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I got it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's my fault. I'm throwing you all off, Leslie. I'm all over the place. Okay, item 6F. Resolution to allow the parish president, the drainage director, and the director of the Department of Public Works to sign, execute, implement, maintain, amend, and renew all documents needed for drainage servitude to include service agreements, hold harmless, right of entry, and temporary construction services. Mr. John Paul.
Yes, this is just an expansion of who can sign for these agreements. They were all coming through the parish president's office, and it was kind of there was a lag time from the field to his office to get things signed, and so it was expanded to the drainage director, but we don't have one yet, and so we expanded it to a third person just so we could have signed Ron or somebody,
Okay.
just for the hold harmless and right of entry agreements. The servitude agreements, it's my opinion, need to be signed by the parish president because they're going to get recorded, but the hold harmless and the right of entry, which are a one-time deal, we can expand that signature authority. And so that's where I'm at with it. That's what I'm requesting.
Doesn't change anything.
Yeah, so we're adding I'm sorry, where am I? We are adding the director of DPW.
Yes.
We're adding that to the parish president and the drainage director.
Yes.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. Cagnolati, and comment by Mr. Lawler.
Yeah, did we change this last time, though, to remove a specific president? I thought we did. Was that on this item that we did, that we said it would just be the parish president without a specific name?
Yes.
So I think we'd have to amend to remove the specific Clint Quintma and just have it parish president on
Yes.
this item.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's my amendment, that we move specific reference to the parish president, Clint Quintma, and just have it parish president.
Okay, so we have an amended motion to remove Clint Quitmall specific name in the resolution and have it refer to strictly parish president, drainage director, and the director of DPW.
Yes, so we don't have to keep doing this every
Okay.
election cycle.
And we have a second by Mr. Cagnolati. Any objection? Hearing none. So moved. Item 6G, the legality of drainage district improving a specific outfall within the greens of Pelican Point. Mr. John Paul, this was an issue from our last meeting. We had some sinkhole issues that went underneath a private residence on private property, and we wanted a little guidance here to what this commission had the authority to actually use tax dollars.
So I did a little case research, and I found a case that's really right on point. It's Savoy versus Rayco Shipbuilders, which is a First Circuit case. And basically, if we don't have a drainage servitude and it's a purely private matter, the drainage district doesn't have the authority to go in and do a repair on a purely private location. Before Pelican Point was built, this all drained into the Panama, and the drainage district would be over it and would make sure that the water would get off of there. When they developed it, they created a private section, the Greens, which is a gated community that is all private roads, all private drainage, and they modified their drainage to a certain extent. And that is purely private at this point, and we do not have a drainage servitude there. If we obtained a drainage servitude for this one section, it would be as though we went in the middle of a drainage plan and obtained that one servitude, and it would not be contiguous necessarily to the outfall. And so based on the case law research and the private nature, whereas it would be private drainage flowing into our servitude and then into more private drainage before it ever got to our regulated outfall, I think this is a purely private matter where we don't have.
Do we need a motion or something with this to, no, I'm good with that.
No, I don't believe we need a motion. We just asked JP to, get us a legal opinion. And, yeah, so it is an unfortunate, situation, but.
I have to say no.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for John Paul on this specific
I guess the only question I do have is, would you be able to, just have that in writing so I can give that to my constituents? So they
Yes.
can bring that to the homeowners association, because that's who's that's their next,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay. All right. Moving along, item 6H. 6H, this is a proposed waiver of conflict by the District Attorney's Office from Parish President Quimall and the East Ascension Drainage Board, stating that the management agreement between the parties is final and ready for legal review. I have a motion by Mr. Robert, the other Mr. Robert.
Yes, there was, as we all know, last year there was a renegotiation of the contract between the administration and the Drainage Board for management of drainage by the administration, and that has been put into place. The District Attorney's Office was conflicted out of that negotiation due to the fact that we represent both entities. That agreement is in place now and has been signed, and there are some concerns from some in the administration as to the applicability and legality of some of the terms in there. The initial language says that the agreement is subject to the Home Rule Charter, and then when you go to apply some of the provisions, they seem to be at odds with the Home Rule Charter. And so I was asking for a conflict waiver so that the council, the District Attorney's Office, myself and Kenneth DePatie could sit down and review the document as a whole as to the applicability. And Ms. Kaysen is here from HR, who has the specific detail points as to what is immediately a conflict, which has to do with terminations of drainage employees specifically. But I think she can speak to that more precisely at this time.
All right, Ms. Kaysen?
Thank you. My initial concern about the Ascension Parish government employees that are under the drainage having, the verbiage as it is right now states that in order to terminate these employees, that it requires the Drainage Board's approval before you do that. My concern from a workforce standpoint is those employees inherently are guaranteed from a charter perspective the balance of power in that if the parish president, whomever that is, terminates them, that they receive an impartial review upon their appeal. And so if we have the same set of people approve the termination from the beginning, also be in charge of reviewing and possibly bringing back those employees, that's actually sort of a conflict from that point, and the employee is denied the ability to have that impartial review upon the appeal. So from my perspective, it's not for one or the other, parish president or the council or the drainage board, it's actually from the standpoint of the employee. Those were my concerns with that particular point.
Chair?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. President.
So this has come up because obviously we do random drug testing. We've had some situations occur, and which HR then reaches out to me, and these people are in this limbo. And so we've also had some activities that required law enforcement to be called. And again, with the Home Rule Charter, we're able to take immediate action, and then this comes before you after all the evidence is gathered, and then the council then looks at that and gives that opinion on returning based on that evidence. Where it's difficult for us to compile all that on immediate just to take immediate action, and these actions are often in the policy that these people will be terminated for these actions. And so it's causing a legal conflict between HR to do their job in doing that, and it also causes some conflict with the employee on the due process of going through the same people twice. And so this is just, it's a situation where we've got 3 or 4 employees in limbo as we speak. And so this would allow HR and legal to get with y'all, discuss these points, and let's take a look so that we can see if we can bring some immediate action to this one provision that is causing this issue with our employees.
So I contacted the district attorney and I said, look, I think I need to give an opinion on some of the terms of the agreement that you came to. And he said, I've kind of been out of it up to this point. And he said, we'll just get a waiver from both sides and then go in there, give an opinion, and then y'all, and then, yes. Yes, I would just kind of, I would give an opinion as to the workability of the particular clause in the agreement and then bring it back to you for what you wanted to do with it.
Second.
So I had a motion from Mr. Robert. So I got a second from Mr. Cagnolati, Mr. Mason. No, who just made a motion?
Ms. Casa.
Okay, and I got a second from Dempsey. Oh, just now. All right, let me see. Ms. Terry, you had your button first and I accidentally deleted you. Would you like to say something? Or?
I was going to hit it again.
Oh, okay, well, go ahead.
No problem. I spoke with John Paul today. I spoke with Lucy today. I'm more comfortable than I've been in a long time in how our operating agreement is working. Or maybe that's not the best way to put it. I'm more comfortable today than I was when we started. I believe that it's been working well. And so I understand that we have this, what appears to be a conflict, and certainly we don't want to hamstring the administration from doing its work nor keep employees in limbo. So I'm comfortable tonight to approve this waiver. I think that we just need to remember that we have a management agreement in place, and this doesn't waive any of those other, and the president has clearly supported that. So I'm very comfortable with it, and I thank John Paul for taking time with me and Lucy for taking time with me today to help me to understand, and you, Chase, who was my first call. So thank you all very much.
Let's see, Mr. Lawler.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard what everybody has said. The problem that I have is the waiver of conflict isn't limited to what the president said. It's not limited to this single issue. It waives all conflicts. And that's not what we're talking about right now. Now, if we want to amend this, and waive the conflict just to the limited issue of the termination process. I think that's more important. This is unlimited by everything.
I would limit it to just interpretation of the agreement as it stands, as to.
But that's everything in the agreement,
Right.
correct? So that's not acceptable. The goal, the president just said is wanted to limit it to just this issue of terminating. That's what Ms. Cason talked about, was just to the issue of termination of employees. We're not open to opening this up to a complete renegotiation, because there are a lot of other issues that are going back and forth now that there would be a conflict on. So if this is limited to being just a waiver of conflict as it pertains to, and I don't have that in front of me, that document in front of me, but whatever section deals with the hiring and firing of employees, then that's something that I think is acceptable. This is much broader than what's been talked about thus far.
All I was contemplating was looking at the document and then giving legal opinions where there was concerns by both sides, and then, but not as to the changing of it.
No, I understand that, but I was just heard that it was just going to be about this one issue of employment. You're saying you're going to look at the whole document. Is that correct?
Well, when you look at the issue of employment, you're looking at the appeal provision, or the provision that says that the board is the only one that can fire. But you also have to look above that to where it says the document is controlled by the Home Rule Charter. And so if you limit me to the one dealing with terminations, you necessarily have to look at the one that says the entire document is subject to the charter. It's a global view.
Yeah, but I'm not comfortable, having that waiver of conflict for everything, because there is a conflict here. And there are disagreements as to how this can be done. I mean, I think there are some issues, as Ms. Cason said, with how this works with employees, and that it does create maybe a situation where we kind of had in the past, where you've got the same people making the judgment are going to be the appellate court. That's not proper. So I think that's something that has to be fixed, but that's something that doesn't necessarily require a waiver of conflict. That requires us to go into that document and see where it can be fixed. And I think we can do that, but without a waiver of conflict that is this broad. I mean, I'm not comfortable, and that's one of the other questions I have is, as an individual on the East Ascension Drainage Commission, I'm not sure the entire commission can just waive my personal conflict, because I'm represented by you also on this. Ethically, I don't know if you can just waive an individual's conflict.
So we have a motion and a second?
Hang on, we have people speaking.
So, I mean, that would be my concern. If we could limit this to just the issue that Ms. Cason was talking about, I'd be much more comfortable. But I don't want this to be overly broad, because personally, I'm not willing to waive that conflict. And that brings up a whole nother issue. Go ahead.
Mr. Parish President.
Yeah. I just want to assure the council members that this is not to cause any strife. This is an issue that my administrative staff has come to me with. I signed the agreement, so obviously I was okay with the agreement. We have been working great together, so this is not about that. This contract did not go through legal, which is the process for every contract we do. So yes, we would like legal to look at it, both Jean Paul and our other attorney. And so this is not based, but it does give the DA, who was concerned, to take that out and say, yes, look at it legally. Those changes and amendments have to come before y'all. If y'all don't want to do them, don't do them. So this change has to come before you once you look at the evidence and once you look at the facts and say, yes, we need to amend this provision of firing because of this happening. And again, it wouldn't probably have happened if it would have went through legal. But that's okay. That's in the past. Let's get past that. But it does need to be looked at, and it does need the normal process of every contract, of everyone that we do. At least let's get their opinion. But y'all get to decide. I'm okay. I signed the contract. I was okay with the way it was. Until my staff comes and says, we got a problem here. And that's my point. There's nothing that I want to do that I've asked Sean Paul to do other than to solve this problem that my staff is coming. And so I guarantee you there's no trickery here. There's no me blindsiding you. There's none of that. Absolutely none of that. And I wanted to tell you that. I wanted to tell these board members that. There is none of that going on. We have worked well together, and I want to continue to work well together, and that is the point.
Internally, what happens is Lucy comes to me and says, I've got a concern with this. I'll say, sorry, I can't help you with that. I'm conflicted out of that document. And that imposes something on you. And so good luck with that. And so I want to help and give an opinion that maybe we bring back to you, and then y'all fix it. I'm not looking to fix it. I'm not looking to change the document. I'm just looking to give her a path forward legally on where she should go. And that requires everybody in this room to fix it, not a unilateral solution.
Mr. Cagnolati.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is just a technical issue, but at the bottom of the document, signature for Parish President Quintmore and Chase Malonson, you the director of the Drainage District or the chairman?
Chairman.
It has you as the director.
Chairman. That's a typo.
That's a typo.
I guarantee you that.
You are new director, Chase?
No. That's me just signing where I shouldn't have. We can definitely correct that.
Yeah. Just a point of interest.
Good deal. All right, Mr. Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a good idea for legal to look over the whole thing. I mean, they said that all the changes or potential, if there is any, are going to come back to us anyway, and then we'll make the actual changes. So I don't see what's the fear of letting legal look over the whole thing. I mean, if we've already found one thing and that Ms. Kasem was nice enough to bring to us, I would like to see if there's anything else. So yeah, I'm in favor of having legal, both Jean-Paul and Kenneth, look over it and see if, just look over the whole thing. I don't think it's going to hurt anything. I think it'll just provide us more information. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Lawler.
I'm still very concerned, and Mr. President, I try to take you at your word. You said you signed the contract, you were okay with it, yet as recently as last meeting, you were opposed to part of the contract that talks about the salary. And you really made a point of being opposed to it. Now, if you're going to tell us that at next meeting you will support doing what the contract says with regard to the salary, we could even do it tonight, we could add it to the agenda and get it done with your support. But you've said one thing, but you've done something differently at the last meeting. So I guess my question to you now is, are you willing to state that you support Section B4 of the contract that says the Ascension Parish Council shall vote to establish the new position with a salary pay range of $135,000 to $210,000 per year, or an amount commensurate with market comparable compensation, and have a qualified subject matter consultant adjust the employee organizational chart to reflect this new position?
All right. What does that has nothing to do. I want everybody to stay on this point. We're getting off
Chairman,
topic.
we just talked about we're going to review the entire contract, and that's part of the contract, correct?
Yeah.
And the president said that he supports everything that's in the contract, so I'm asking, are we going to live by what we said?
Aaron, there's not a person up here that loves everything in that contract.
But we all agreed to it.
We did agree to
So
it.
I'm asking, are we going to, the president just said he can live with the contract and he's not opposed to it. I'm speaking.
Please, one at a time.
So
Everybody's gonna get
that's
their
my
turn.
question, is, that's part of what we have to do per this contract, is to establish that new position that we all agreed upon. And to say that I'm okay with everything in the contract, but then to act differently last meeting is a contradiction. And I'm not incorrect on that. That is an absolute contradiction. And we're not, once again, like you said, Chase, we don't have to pay that much. None of us want to pay that much, but that's what's in the contract.
And this is the fifth time we're fighting over something that might not even be a damn problem.
So but when somebody says something and then does the opposite, that's my concern. So that's my question. I'm not waiving my conflict.
Okay. Ms. Casso.
Well, I was comfortable until Michael said we're going to go over the whole thing. I think that this needs to be limited to the issue that we are addressing for the moment. And then let's work together to come up with the other legal issues that may need some discussion. I think we can do that in a room with, like, adults. And so I would ask you, Mr. President, to allow me to amend this to reflect just this issue at this time, and that we also begin some discussion with legal counsel around other issues that might exist in the contract and make future recommendations to the commission.
Thank you, Chairwoman Casso. Thank you. I appreciate it, and yes, absolutely, I support that. I'm willing to work with you anytime. So yes, thank you, and yes, look forward to help solving this particular issue.
Yes,
Absolutely.
that is my proposed amendment.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Mr. Robert, your turn to speak.
The fact that we are concerned about an attorney or the district attorney's office looking at the legality of a contract that we approved is very concerning. It would imply that one thinks that it's not a legal document and you don't want it to be shown. So I'm going to be against that amendment. That's all.
Okay, so we have an amended motion by Ms. Casso, seconded by Mr. Lawler, for the proposed waiver of conflict to be specific to the termination clause in the manager's agreement with the parish president.
And that we continue discussions.
And that we can continue discussions
Any other issues that
on
might
any other
exist?
issues that may exist. So if everyone could please vote on the amended motion. All right, motion is 6 yeas, 2 nays, and it passes. All right, moving along, we are going to go to item 6J. This is also for the manager's agreement between East Ascension Drainage Commission and the parish president. The East Ascension Drainage Commission has a responsibility to make 2 appointments to the review panel for the drainage director position that we was, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm all over the place. All right.
Can I say something, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead, Ms.
For
Casso.
years y'all laughed at me.
I know. For years I have.
And I have been redeemed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There you
Exactly.
go. Go ahead.
I don't know, I can't tell y'all how many nights I left here feeling like the stupidest woman in Ascension Parish, and all of y'all snickering about it on the side. And tonight, I get to snicker all the way home.
All right, item 6I, approval to enter into an intergovernmental agreement between East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 with the City of Gonzales for the purchase and assistance with excavation work to construct the kayak launch. Have a motion by Mr. Lambert,
Second.
a second by Mr. Robert and a few other people. Any opposition? Hearing none?
We have, sorry, we
okay.
have some concerns. This came up, the board was asked to assist the city with this project. I think it's a leadership Ascension project that was started with them. They needed some equipment. We started to look at it. The question came up, do they have the proper permits to dig in the channel? And we had a consultant, ELOS, look at that, and they believe that permits are going to be required. The city has not obtained those, and now the question is, who is going to pay for that? And I think Ron's got some information on that.
Well, it's in you guys' packet, the proposal to do it. We have the procurement in place to do this. We just didn't want to move forward with that process without you being aware of it, that's all.
I'll amend my motion to include it.
I'll second that.
Yeah, it was like 4,500 for ELOS and then 11,500 for.
16. Yeah, it's 16 in total, the
16,000 total.
4,500 to determine if a permit is needed or not.
Mhm.
And then if there is one needed, then the rest of the cost will be incurred in that
Okay.
remaining balance.
All right, so I have an amended motion from Mr. Lambert to include the 16,000 with the intergovernmental agreement, and have a second from Mr. Cagnolati. Any objection? Hearing none, so moved. Now, back to 6J. The East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District, number one, appointments to the panel. So we have an obligation to, as a body, to appoint two persons to the review panel for the drainage director position. That will be working with parish presidents, two appointments, and also Ms. Christelle Slaughter and SSA. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead, we have 5 people who have nominated themselves or been nominated by a drainage commissioner. And the way we'll do it is I'm gonna ask every drainage commissioner to name their 2 people that they would like. And the 2 nominations who have the most votes, we will, 2 people who have the most votes will be this commission's nominations for that review panel. The responses I got back via the numerous emails was I myself nominated, I would like to serve on the panel, Commissioner Dow Waggersback, Commissioner Dempsey Lambert, and then 2 nominations by Commissioner Aaron Lawler. We have Mr. Lawrence Callender and Mr. David Guillory. And that was the responses that I received from the commission. Is there anybody else who would like to add their name to consideration? Any other commissioners? Hearing none. Okay, so I'm Ms. Leslie, I'm ask you to help. Yeah.
Before we start, I wanted to say something.
Okay, yeah, absolutely, go ahead.
Now, part of the reason I nominated 2 people is my goal was that we not bring politics into this. Everybody sitting up here is eventually going to have the final say on who the drainage director is. And just so the public knows the process, because I don't know if they know what the process is, we're getting applications that are coming in. All of those applications are going to be whittled down to a reasonable number. I don't know what the exact number is, 15, 10, 8. I really honestly don't know. And then this review panel is going to have 2 people chosen by this commission, 2 people chosen by the administration. They will be able to talk to these people, read the resumes, learn about them, and see what their qualifications are, and will nominate 1 or 2 or 3 people that and I think this is correct, that the parish president will then select and then submit to us for our either approval or disapproval. And if it's disapproved, we'll go back and he can select somebody else. And the reason I bring all that up is we are going to have a say in this process. The parish president is going to have a say in this process. That's why, kind of like we talked about the double jeopardy, hey, we're all going to vote on this. I thought it would be good to have people with experience being directors, with experience seeing high-level functioning departments that don't have a political interest in this. And that's what I was trying to avoid. That's why I went out and I looked for people. I don't know these people very well. I've only spoken to a couple of them on the phone and one of them in person a couple times, but I've looked at their resumes. I've talked to people that know them. These people are beyond reproach, and my goal was to keep politics out of this. We're already going to have our vote. Adding one of us on here already is going to basically give that person 2 votes. And I just thought it would be good to make this a less political situation than it maybe has to be. And that's why I was hoping we could keep elected officials off of this panel. But that's really up to us in the end.
Good. All right, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Robert. Would you please say your 2 nominations, please?
Dempsey Lambert and Chase Malawson.
All right, Mr. Turner.
Dallin Dempsey.
All right.
Mr. Robert and Mr. Wagensback.
Mr. Robert.
There's no Mr. Robert.
Oh, yeah, Joel did not want to be considered.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The other citizen, Mr. Lawrence.
Okay. And you said Dow Wagensback? Okay. I'll go next. I will vote for myself and Mr. Dempsey. Ms. Lawler?
I'm going to vote for Mr. Lawrence Callender and David Guillory.
All right, Ms. Casso?
I'm going to support at this point Lawrence Callender and David Guillory.
Okay. Mr. Cagnolati?
Mr. Callender and Mr. Guillory.
And Mr. Mason.
Mr. Malonson and Mr. Wagasback.
Okay, so I have Mr. Lawrence as number one with 4 votes. And then it looks like there's a 4-way tie with three votes each. So we will have another round of voting. Mr. Lawrence will be appointee number 1. So at this point, everyone would get 1 vote on this go-round between myself, Dow, Dempsey, and Mr. David. So I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Robert, for your 1.
Dempsey?
Mr. Dempsey. And Mr. Turner?
Dempsey.
Mr. Dempsey?
That's hard to do, man. Nah, I'm gonna go with you, Mr. Malonson.
So tell you what, I'm going to vote for you, Dempsey. All right, Mr. Lawler?
David Guillory.
Mr. David? Ms. Casso?
Mr. Gilroy.
Mr. Cagnolati?
Mr. Gilroy.
And Mr. Mason?
Dempsey Lambert.
Okay, so Mr. Dempsey is our second appointee with 4 votes. So for the record, the appointees would be Mr. Lawrence and Mr. Lambert. And at this time, I will ask the parish president, would you like to announce your 2 appointees?
Sure, it'll be me and Ron Savoy.
Okay, so yourself, parish president, and DPW director, Mr. Savoy.
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
Look forward to working with you.
Yeah, thanks for volunteering, Dempsey. Okay, we will move on to item number 7A. We're going to move to the drainage report. We have Mr. Monzon. H&TB is going to update us on both our new ADAPT program and our floodplain management.
All right, good evening. Looks like the floodplain management plan is up first. I'll make it brief. We are in the June-July schedule right there, middle of July. As you can see, we're a little bit behind on identifying the problems, up to 60. We're going to narrow that down to 30. We had a steering committee meeting a couple of weeks back. We showed some of the projects that we're thinking about. We're going to have a full 60. Moving along, we're still proposing the modeling, benefit cost analysis, and the risk reduction report. Right now, we're still on schedule for August 30th of this year. You've seen a lot of these slides right here. Just want to show you some of the areas that we're looking at in the Bayou Manchac Basin, and I'm going to go kind of quickly, so if you see something, some of you want me to stop, I'll go ahead and slow down. Henderson Bayou. Now, this is just some of the ones we're looking at. That's not everything we're looking at. Obviously, we got to get to 60 projects. Bayou Conway. Some of the areas in Bayou Conway that we're looking at. Marvin Bro, this slide was put together by CSRS, and these are some of the projects that they're looking at. In summary, the final floodplain management report is still expected to be submitted on August 31st. The list of projects, we're finalizing that down to 60 projects for review, and we're adding benefit cost analysis for prioritization. That's all I have for this.
I do have one question, Mr. Monzon. Could you email that to the council, please? Just so they can go back and kind of look at it a little more closely?
What's that?
The PowerPoint presentation you just had.
Yeah.
Could you,
I'll
if you
send
don't mind?
it to you. Yeah, I'll email it to you.
Thank you.
And it's always, I didn't put any slides on the modeling because I think you've seen every model we run under the sun. It's just a bunch of colors. It looks like the rainbow after a while. It starts to get a little blurry. But if at any point in time you want to meet one-on-one and discuss certain areas and some of the projects that we're working on, feel free.
Okay. Look, Mr. Lambert, I believe, has one question for you, Mr. John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sir.
I guess this would, after August, boots on the ground, how much time are we looking at? Because, look, the rain events that we are having right now, just yesterday, a few days ago, when you get this amount, we already at the top of the banks on a lot of these channels. How quick are we gonna get boots on the ground when you give your findings?
So once we whittle it down from 60 to 30 projects, there will be a prioritization tool. Now, some of those will be easy to go out and get done. Some of those will need additional funding, whether it's from grant funding or whatnot. So it just depends on the level of effort that's going to be required to start implementing those problems. Now, as of
Clinton?
Yeah, Dempsey, so we have, like, for example, Henderson's permitted. So obviously, because it's already permitted, as soon as they take a look at that, that's one we can immediately get at. So projects that are permitted, that they're reviewing to make sure that we're in line with what's expected, that's the ones we're going to jump on first. And I know that's in your district, and it's one you've been asking for months and months now. But yes, it is a priority that the ones permitted, we get to soonest because we don't have that lag of that process.
Sure.
So that is one of them, but we need them to look at that and do the engineering and do the recommendations so that we do it the right first time. So
Yeah, funding and permitting, yeah, two top things we'll have to consider. And then the other thing is, when we submit the final floodplain management plan, the parish is gonna have, they're gonna peer review it. There's two firms that look at all of our calculations and everything else, but at that point, you will have a really good idea as to which projects are gonna be able to move along the quickest.
Thank you.
And I would, I want to add real quick, that each one of the projects, it comes with, with that BCA number, that cost benefit analysis. So I'm really hoping that that's going to help drive, if you have a project with the same BCA, but one costs $1 million and one costs $2 million, I think it's going to be easy choice which project we want to go to first.
And there are things you could, once a BCA gets to a certain point, that you can add like a human element factor into it to get a higher BCA. So there's things you could do after you get like a 0.75 or 0.65, I think it is, that you can move it further along. Okay, so this next one I'll be brief as well. This is the ADAPT program. This is the timeline that I showed you, I think it was last board meeting. The contract has been executed. Task order number 1 has been executed as well. We're starting to work on task order number 1. These are some of the action items that we're working on right now that we're looking at in the near future. That is to finish the Henderson Bayou Pump Station Safe House Grant application. I have one of my gentlemen working with Buck and Hermina. We have a self-imposed deadline of July 15th. That's in order to meet and send that application to GOSEP. We're about 75% complete on that application. That's just a couple of data points that we need, but we've got most of that information from Ron. So we'll meet later this week, Ron, and get you up to speed on that. We have a set scheduled visit to pump station in Houma, model for Bayou Conway pump station expansion. That's scheduled for Wednesday. We're going to be looking at some of the practicalities of that facility as opposed to some of the design that's in place right now. As I mentioned, this will take place Wednesday. We're reviewing the Bayou Conway Pump Station grant information and design. We have the grant information in hand, that's ongoing. That's rather, it's like about the thickness of 2 phone books. It's going to take me a while. Marvin Bro levy enhancement, enlargement, RFQ for advertisement. We're going to be working to put together an RFQ. This is to seek design services for the Marvin Bro levy enlargers, Marvin Bro East, West, and the existing Laurel Ridge. And then finally, we're working with ELOS to let them continue on their easement mapping subtask. These are just some of the hottest items that we're working on. They're on ADAPT. Additional to this, we're also working on, as requested, a list of funding sources, grant funding sources that would be available for some of these drainage projects. So more to come. We're also meeting internally and looking at some of the big picture program management items that we discussed when we were putting together this proposal. So that's where we are right now, and I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Monzon? No? All right, Mr. John, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, up next, we have the our monthly drainage report, Mr. Jade.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Board. Thanks for having us. Bringing y'all the June monthly report. Keep in mind that we gave about half this report last month because we were running, a few weeks ahead. But we did put together a pretty decent report for y'all. So we'll just start off. Everybody knows we're pulling trees. I just wanted to show and remind everybody we do have trees that are still falling since the storm. These are not storm-related trees. So that's kind of why we put this in here, just to give you an idea that we are back to regular normal business with this tree removal. Some New River Canal tree removal, Black Bayou. Right now, we're transitioning back into our maintenance from that Ida debris removal We're doing vegetation management, New River, Duck Roost Canal, Black Bayou, Bayou Conway. Notice if y'all pass by the churches or down behind Bateman's Ice, you'll see that stuff. It's dying off now, and hopefully it'll return our waterways back clean again. Some roadside ditch efforts here. Raking culverts open before these rains. Sam Martin Road culvert replacements. This was kind of tied into Split Log Road. We went over there, identified a problem between the two roads. One road drains Anderson Canal, the other one to Heath. But in the middle of that road crosses, they kind of swap water and share. So when we was making one repair, came back and we used the culvert policy and developed a small project to get this entire road to drain back to Heath Bayou. So we were able to put a few culverts in there and get these guys happy. This was a problem that they've been asking to fix for a long time. So hopefully these residents are very happy back there. Jim Babin Road culvert replacement, kind of same issue, just a problem that was blocking drainage, and we use our policy to fix that issue. This is one here that we worked with the parish president on, starting to identify some box culverts, and you'll kind of start seeing mine, Ron's, Johan's reports kind of look the same, and start identifying some characteristics of these choke points. Some of these things Mr. John's looking at. We brought in a third-party contractor, kind of teach us how to clean these big box culverts out. And we found out that we had the equipment to do this, minus some of the smaller tools that we use in this truck. And we was able to put a crew together, get some know-how, and use that money wisely as a development to where we could do these jobs. But you see how much debris was in that, how much we've taken out there. Makes a huge, huge difference. So we're looking into doing a better job with these box culverts and open some of this up. These are some of our sinkhole repairs that our crews are making. Culvert maintenance, once again, when it's raining, we can't work. These guys are going out cleaning these culverts. This job here, we're proud of. This is a monumental job here. This is something that we work with the state. Adam East Road, it's had long-term problems with water flow, it was at a lower elevation than that culvert crossing at Highway 74. We've worked with Mr. Jarrett, with Hartman, worked with the state to get these culverts in place to allow that water to drain and see if we can get benefit to these residents. So hopefully we prove this correct and these guys get some relief. But if it works out, this is very monumental for them guys. So Jamie Brown's crew did this. This was a week-long job. But June drainage work order statuses. We completed 62 work orders, approved 71, 19 in progress, 56 new. By activity report, and I want to remind y'all, you'll see at the top, just one little instance, because I know y'all will catch it. This East Manager assigned activity. This will change. We're working with IT. We're still building reports within this new system. So this could be several different items. This could be digging a roadside ditch to just about anything drainage-wise and minor drainage. And Mr. Jarris has been doing a good job of getting us back from to break this down to where we can actually show what activities by report were done. This is a map, gives you an idea of the locations that the work orders were complete in June. So a very good representation of who got work done in what district and how we're kind of sharing it and prioritizing that work. Thought it was very important that we reach the middle of the year. This system does not predict the middle of the year, but I thought it was very important that middle of the year we kind of go back and look at a trend. This was able to give us a small trend for about 3 months here. So we started this system in 22, started billing a little data, and actually we opened it in March, started billing some in April. Gives you your activities from that time till now. Approximately 700, 800 jobs. New work orders monthly. This is what one of the very important things for y'all to understand how our work flows, how we look at our staffing needs, our equipment needs. where our future lies in maintenance versus response, different things like this. You can see here where, if you look at the bottom of your new work order monthly, those numbers represent the second or third month of the year. So you can see we're averaging 200, 220 work orders a month. And you can go over to the right and you can look at the completed section, and you see where when we started fitting into the system, prioritizing work and looking at the way we work our crews, we're able to get to about 50% of that work right now. So I think this tool's gonna be very, very valuable to adjust our crews, come ask y'all for more employees, or, how we do maintenance or prioritize our work. But I want to give y'all just a little snapshot of it, and hopefully 6 months from now, we get a very good picture of it, and we're able to move forward. But this here is the amount of work that was completed by MAP in 22 in this Munis system. So that's was since I'd say the second week of March through April. So a lot of work's been performed through there. No reporting from MGO anymore. This will be the first month I did not include any MGO in it. I will let y'all know we are still working out of MGO, but we are entering those work orders into this system as we remove them out of MGO. So you are seeing true data, even though we're working in two systems. Major drainage projects completed in June. Vincent Tripp Ditch. One of the things I want y'all to notice, you're going to see things like Tier 2, Tier 1, Tier 3. You'll see this in Mr. Ron's presentation. Mr. Johan's going to be working some of this into his. This designates the type of ditch, canal, or drainage level that we have. So your Vincent Tripp Ditch is a Tier 2 ditch. But we've completed Vincent Tripp, Joseph Area to Bang Ficklin, Highway 74, Adnice Road, and El Reggie culverts, which y'all saw earlier. Projects in progress. The lower Goudin lateral from Chester DS to Bayou Goudin, which is a Tier 3 channel. Fish and Frog Bayou. We finished I reported on it earlier, I think last month. We finished the IDA efforts in there. We're in there shredding that now, so that's a Tier 2. Alex Rain Road, outfall, Highway 22 to Anderson Canal, so it's a Tier 3 canal. Vincent Tripp laterals. So that, even though we're finished with Vincent Tripp, we're still working those Tier 3s coming off of that. So we'll be in there for a good while. Upcoming drainage projects, I'm not going to go through all those. They're pretty much the same as last month. We're still working in the same areas that we reported in. On the last thing, we want to congratulate and take the time to thank Mr. Arnold Villeneuve for his efforts at the parish. He's a very valuable employee. I wanted to mention that he was at the Marvin Bro Pump Station. This is, we always talk about the pump station. Nobody ever gets to see these guys. So Mr. Arnold is the second guy from the left, the older gentleman. Very nice guy. He put 7 hard years in with the parish. He spent a lot of nights out there alone, a lot of days out there alone. And I'm going to tell y'all, I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him, but I got to spend the last 2 days he was here with him. That gentleman took pride in his work. I saw him take a new guy and run him front to back at that station like it was his first day at work. I was very proud of the efforts this guy's put in, and I want to take time to thank him. That's what I got for you.
Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Jade.
Chair, if I may?
Yeah, Mr. President.
So as y'all been noticing, I just want to give a shout out to Ron, Jade, and Johan. As y'all are looking, we're seeing this data come to fruition now. Starting to see the early implementation of spending a lot of money. Parish government spent a lot of money on software, being Munis and Tyler and the work order system. And these guys are tasked at learning that. And it's not that they're graduated computer, linguistic employees. They're having to dig deep into these softwares and learn them and then implement them and getting their guys to implement them. So I'm so proud of them on what they've done in trying to bring technology to our drainage department, for y'all to look at these numbers so that year after year, when we're just getting into it, we can start comparing and seeing where we're at and seeing where the fall off is or where we're doing exceptional. Also want to join with the board and these guys to thank our employees out in the June and July heat. It has been brutal. It has been brutal. And those guys are still out there getting it every day. So from the board and from the administration and from these guys here, I want to give them a big shout, say thank you. And we really appreciate what you're doing out there for us every day and getting this work done. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, definitely need to be careful. Mr. Johan, you are up, sir. Item 7C, or monthly vegetation report.
I am 7C. All right, good afternoon, Chairman, Council, and Parish President. Here's my report for last month. Bringing y'all update on sandbags. As you know, I told y'all last month, currently we have 20,900 pre-filled bags in sea cans throughout the parish. Our vendor has currently right now 35,000 filled and palletized out of the remaining 79,000 that are left in the order that are going to be stored at Lamar-Dixon. Currently, where we are in this stage, we've got our reclaimed asphalt that's been laid down, and we're going to have security fencing installed soon, so all of these precious parish assets can be protected. We also began test applications using our drone last week. Pending successful results of this testing, our production application will begin very soon. I actually included an arrow to show you exactly where it is in the sky, even though it's very big, as you can see in this photo. That's it way up there in the sky. Our test area was just north of Lamar-Dixon. We actually helped Lamar-Dixon out. We sprayed a ditch that they could not get anywhere near like we have out there. We also sprayed a tree line that had some established trees. And we also did an application rate of about 100 or so yards in the right-of-way just north of there. So we hope to begin that very soon. Our Lifehouse Crew Spotlight for this month. We have our third member from the Lifehouse started. Actually, it was his first day today. Mr. Waylon Walden, y'all should remember him. He's been here. And also, we had a resident, Miss Pierce, that lives on Dean Street, managed to get with Mr. Savoy and wanted to make sure to let everybody know of the praises of Mr. Whalen and his Lifehouse crews that he's leading. They're doing an awesome job out there. Got some pictures to show y'all. This was off of Lowe's at 61, part of Narcisse that cannot be accessed by tractor. The Lifehouse crew stepped in and was working with our supervisor in that area exactly as far. The tractor stopped. They took it all the way to the rest of 61. We've got Pierce Road, Black Cherry Court. Some more work on Buster Road in St. Amand. Also, Ms. Casso, we have our litter crews that we're working on clearing up the Highway 73 area, making sure we get the litter and stuff cleaned up before it ends up in our drainage system. So we got Highway 73 cleaned up real nice for you. Quadrants, our spotlight mowing and spraying. We've got crews that have been working out on 7 Road, Moody Dixon, Bayou Bend, and off of Highway 431. As you could see on the left picture, these guys were up in the thickets, knocking down a lot of vegetation. Despite what y'all been hearing outside, we've still been able to get quite a bit of work done, especially in June. I'll show you all the work order metrics. This is where me and Jade's program start to look exactly alike. You can see as far as vegetation is when in March, when they started to trickle in. April, we received 92 new work orders in. And currently last month we received 131. So this is new work orders coming in per month. On the backside of what we completed each month, you can see from April on, we're averaging about 70 completing each month. So it's good to see trends already developing, coming in around 100 or so every month, and we're at least getting 70 completed each month. Current status as of all work orders currently, since we started running in April, we've got 42% of total is completed. 25 is currently sitting approved at each individual supervisor's queue. 17 new that are sitting as my queue that I review and send out to each supervisor, and the currently 11% are currently in progress. Completed work orders in June by task codes. As you can see, again, hand cleaning and servitude is way out in the lead. Departmental overtime, we did take advantage of dry weather in June. We worked Friday the 17th and the 24th, which gave us an 11.5% over normal production for those 2 weeks. Very glad we got ahead of the ball, because as we entered in July, the rain has not stopped. Makes it very difficult for us. What we did during those 2 weekends was working on Highway 933 from 42 to 44, Charleston Road area, Tiggy Duplessis, Oak Meadow, and Black Bayou near Ott Lane. Also have some data from our GPS showing you where we were at on Charleston, Highway 933, Duplessis, Oak Meadow, and Tiggy Duplessis area. And also, this is some follow-up pictures of after the job on 930. Actually, the first picture is Ott Lane, Black Bayou, and again, over on Paula Park was 933, I believe. Tiggy Duplessis and Duplessis. This is after shot after the work had been completed. And overview of Charleston. Any questions or comments for this month's presentation?
I believe Ms. Casso has a question for you.
I just
or
wanted
comment.
to thank you for
welcome.
the litter detail on Highway 73. That's the gateway to our parish, first place people get off the interstate. There's a lot of problems there, but litter doesn't need to be one of them. And so I appreciate that very much.
You're very
I
welcome.
also appreciate the cutting that was done on Seabro Road. And I thank the team. I know it's terrible weather to be cutting grass, but also I have an issue on Ridge Road. It's work order number 2296. If you'll follow up on that one for me.
2296.
2296.
Okay, I know I have not gotten to those numbers yet.
I'm sure you haven't. I just want to make sure you follow up.
My
on
queue is about 2 weeks.
Perfect.
So I think my oldest one I have to look at is the 23rd of June, so it's probably in that area.
This one, the ditch is so high that the owner is having a difficult time seeing when she comes out of her driveway. So
Okay.
it would be helpful. I think it's a safety issue, and so the sooner we can get to that, the better.
Okay, we'll follow up on
And
that.
I just don't think there's anyone in the household who can cut the ditch.
Right.
All right, good deal. Thank you, Ms. Johan.
All right, thank
Appreciate
y'all.
Well, coming out of that, I'll qualify that.
All right, item 7D, update on Tier 3 and 4 drainage conveyance maintenance. Mr. Ron Savoy.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank Johan and Jade for their time, parish presidents for the comments for the staff earlier. We all got their back and appreciate everything they do every day. And thank you guys for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'd like to start off by giving a huge thank you out to our Geographical Information Systems team, Mr. Brian Martinez and his new assistant, Ms. Cynthia Liu, as these maps that you're going to see and data points are a lot of their work. We came together as a project team to really take a deep dive in the data that gives a true picture of understanding of what our drainage system on the East Bank consists of, and gives a really good breakdown of the different tiers of channels. So we'll get into our first slide here of mapping and what it represents. It's all the off-road drainage channels within the East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District's jurisdiction. It's a really busy map, and we tried our best to not overwhelm you guys with your eyes to see what you're looking at. But it's broken down by basin. You'll see Bayou Manchac, Marvin Bro, Henderson Bayou, and Panama Canal and Bayou Conway. It's very similar to what you're seeing in the floodplain management project throughout the basins. The purpose of this project was to validate and calibrate our GIS layer of all the parish East Bank waterways, establish a foundation that creates understanding of a baseline of the parish waterways. This layer has been in existence for a while, but it was made up of many different sources of data, from the state DOT to the parish backlog of data, and then the East Ascension adopted lateral data, and many others. But it never was broken down and calibrated and validated. And so that's the purpose of what we're doing. The map is broken down, as we said, by basins. We have currently completed the initial validation in all the basins except Bayou Conway and Panama Canal, and we anticipate about another month's work to complete that process. All the lines on the map represent different channels throughout the east bank of the parish. If you refer to the top right of the channel, the map, you'll see the different tiers broken down by numbers at the point of where we are in the project. So tier 1s have 24 channels, and tier 2s have 171, 3s 381, and 4s are at 587. There's a total number of channels in the parish as we stand right now is 1,163 channels to date. So realize that's a lot of ditches out there that are in our area. What does this map not? Go ahead.
And just for clarification, this is strictly off-road. This is not all roadside
About
ditches.
to get into that. What does
Okay.
this map not represent? Okay, this map doesn't touch roadside drainage ditches, which roughly estimated at 1,000 miles. We have 500, I think, miles of roads that are parish roads. And we also have the state highway ditches in there as well that are not represented within this map. There will also, we'll look at that at a later point in effort when we go into the next step of data development within these metrics in the project. So when we get to the next slide, you start really getting the understanding of what the project consists of. So we took Marvin Bros Basin and give you a standalone view of this. If you noticed earlier in HNTB's presentation, the watershed of, or water basin of Marvin Bro might look a little different than this. But we took the deep dive to really get granular on where the basin boundary lines are compared to what's been out there in the past. And so we're working with HNTB to bring both of our findings together, and we'll look at those basin lines as one part of the project. The second is you'll start noticing the different colors of different channels and the little arrows pointing. We took the opportunity we had to go through every ditch in the parish and take the skill sets of our technology team and our institutional knowledge and put that together. It helps people like Johan and end users and Jade and his group to understand where the water drains. What direction does it flow? So we're putting directional flows on all of these channels and breaking that data down. So we just wanted to give you the understanding that the more you zoom into the layer, the busier the maps get and the more technical the data gets. And so we'll go a deep further dive into what the data looks like when you really zoom into it. So we took the opportunity to get a really close-up view of an area. And the map on the left of the slide represents the Santa Monica High School campus, as well as Church Point and Highway 431 intersections. And to the right of the map, you'll see an attribute table which shows what data points we're collecting on every ditch in the parish. So looking back at the map, it does provide a very solid representation of a tier 1, 2, 3, and so on breakdown. If you notice Black Bayou in dark blue with the directional arrows, that is a tier 1 channel. And then the ditch that runs right north of the high school campus, the lighter blue shade one, intersects that tier 1. So the Santa Monica High School outfall is a tier 2. And then the same time, you see in a third ditch go off of that Santa Monica High ditch, which would be your tier 3. So it kind of gives you the rationale behind the tier 1, 2, and 3 concept. We wanted to give you a good representation of that. And you go back to the attribute table to the right, this captures other important data sets such as, does the drainage ditch have servitude? What basin is it located in? What watershed? What water type? Is it a ditch, a swale, or a canal? All of these data sets are being populated channel by channel, so it's very time-consuming and cumbersome to get all this data accurate. It's also important to understand that there are times where some Tier 3 and 4 class channels may drain directly into a Tier 1. We faced this challenge of forward-thinking this process of where are we going with the labeling of a Tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. For example, the light green channels on the map to the left, south of Church Point, those are just very, very small drainage ditches, but they don't drain directly into Black Bayou. So we didn't feel it appropriate to classify them as a Tier 2, whereas the maintenance method for those channels may require dredging or something like this on a Tier 2. So those kind of are special, and we have a category that we're categorizing those very small channels with a label so we can filter those out in the future. So then, what does all this mean, and where do we go with it? And remember, we're in the middle of the process of building the database. So the project team came together and said, let's compile all the data. And what you're looking at is a metric that breaks down all of what we just discussed and sort of gives you some projections to start wrapping our minds around how big our system is and what is the value in our responsibility. How big is it and how much would it cost to maintain these things? So when you look at the data, you may ask yourself, how did you come up with the estimated costs per mile? So you look at the various columns and you'll see the first one you get is a rate per mile for maintenance. Then you get to that cost. Then you're going to see a level of service and a cost per year on those. So when you look at the Tier 2 channels, we had the New River dredging project going on right now. So that's where that figure comes from, is an actual project being done today, comes in at a $730,000 a mile value. And then the Tier 3s are a commonly maintenance channel by our in-house crews. And so we developed a metric in-house to determine how much labor and equipment it takes to do maintenance on a Tier 3, and came up with $41,712 a mile. So what this does is break down a cost budget of what it would take to maintenance these channels. So as seen in the metric, remember, Bayou Conway and Panama are not necessarily complete just yet. It would take you annual revenue of $27 million plus to do drainage maintenance. And what that means is excavation of silt out of channels. That's what the budget would require to do maintenance on what the data is showing. An overall one-time value of over $200 million to do maintenance one time on the data sets that we're finding. So the scope of work focused upon drainage excavation is very important, as we discussed about that. But what does it not include? This does not cover capital projects, capital asset management and operations, the vegetation management group, or any other service category that the Drainage Department is responsible for. The data set also does not take into account the milestones needed prior to the ability to mobilize, such as servitude verification, landowner issues, engineering specifications, uses permits, spoil disposals, and etc. In conclusion, this project will create a foundation for data-driven decisions to be made. The metric figures were utilized to provide true overview of the GIS project and certainly do not represent a definitive direction at this time. The deliverable will be utilized and integrated with the Munis work order systems. The crews and maintenance end users will be able to charge work to the actual asset that they are maintaining. This project creates the foundation to provide the ability to adjust to whatever means and method and direction the board wishes to go with this data. But we will continue to move forward. And once we complete the remainder of it will come back to you guys. And we'll just open the floor for any questions.
Awesome. Ms. Castle, you're up first.
I did, but look, thank you for this amazing work. I'm so impressed by all the data that you folks have just gathered together and started to help us to make sense of. This is information that we need, and I think the public is going to appreciate it, but maybe not as much as we do, because it's amazing. Thank you. I want to go back to the very first slide with the basin map, and tell me, if you will, about the comparable sizes of the, I mean, it looks to me like they're about the same land mass. Is that accurate?
Are you talking about the size of the basins? ma'am?
Yeah, the size of each basin?
Marvin Bro is the largest. Conway would be the second. They are, those two are the most comparable, and then Henderson and Manchac are relatively the same, but they're a little bit smaller.
Okay. It's just a question I had.
Sure.
I thought that's what I was seeing on the map, but look, I don't trust my own judgment at this hour of the night. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll get with you on a thought I'm having about that
Sure.
going forward. I just need to develop that a little better.
All right, Mr. Robert.
So just at the last slide you had with the numbers up there, you said it was around about $232 million to do all of the waterways. So if you look at the number down there, cost per year, we're relatively looking at 9 to 10 years to be able to have a cycle to do everything in the parish, or that's not how you have that broken down?
I think we need to take a deep dive into finishing the project and getting a true understanding of what the true inventory is. And then we take a really deep dive into all the resources we're bringing to the drainage district at this time with these professionals, and we take a deep look at that.
And how did we come up with cost per year out of that total cost? I mean, is that just maximum maximum?
So the tier 2, right, was an actual cost of a project in progress now. So we utilized that rate and applied it to those tier channels. The tier 1 and tier 4 are arbitrary estimates. They are not concrete, but the tier 2 and tier 3 we feel are pretty accurate estimates. So obviously this metric is a metric. It's not set in stone, it's not concrete. You can change these numbers as such as the level of service.
Yeah.
We can change any of that to whatever direction the board wishes to go, and it will reflect the numbers.
I guess ultimately, y'all are doing a great job with all these numbers. I would love to see if we could get to a point after we get the time and how much time it takes to name all these and clean all these, what type of turnover it would be to clean every waterway in the parish. Like, are we talking 10 years, 5 years, whatever, just to have an idea?
Yeah, I think that's a detailed effort that would take some considerable professional overview to make that opinion.
Thank you.
Mr. Lawler.
Yeah, this is really amazing information. I mean, all the maps, it was really cool. I'm still taking all the numbers and just the sheer volume of the numbers, and I agree with Joel. I mean, this is not something that's going to be done over time, and I think it helps give the public an understanding of just what it costs to do what we do, in addition to all the other projects that we have going on throughout the parish. I noticed we didn't break down the quadrants. Do this, I don't know why. It's the quadrant sign. Are we looking at this maintenance plan from a watershed or a basin standpoint as opposed to a quadrant standpoint?
Right now, Councilman, that wasn't the focal point of this project. What this is you look back at what Jade's presentation represents in Johann's. What this does is give them a tool that you didn't see in their presentation. You saw data in dots throughout the map. So this project will give them, you'll start seeing channels lit up as to what was actually maintenance, and you'll start seeing that populate. As far as a true maintenance plan overview and scoping of all that, we're not at that point yet. We're still trying to define what do we have to maintenance. And so on the back end of this, I feel like there will be a need to look at that as a whole.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, somebody mentioned something about arbitrary lines and things, and I didn't think of this. Not my idea. Somebody else thought of this, much smarter than me. It was Jason. No, not really.
The arbitrary lines of a quarter of a quadrant don't always work well with the maintenance plan because, you're going to be cutting a bayou in half and having different groups responsible for it. So separating things out by basin or by watershed seems like a really good idea, the way it's all going to work, because all that water is going to stay within that basin. Hopefully we can start to progress towards that direction of maintenance in a basin or watershed theory versus just a quadrant theory, which is more just ambiguous, just random lines drawn on a map. Do we have, this is going to take a long time, but I know we're working towards a maintenance plan. Can we get updates on this every 3 months? Is that reasonable?
Yeah, I don't see why we can't, Councilman. I think one important thing to get down to that I think you'll be able to utilize this data for is say that you do look at basin by basin. It's the same process from the metric. It's already broken down per basin. So that's sort of what we are looking at, right? Yeah. But what is the trends telling us that you're starting to see in the work order system? Supply and demand. And how much outweighed is our demand versus our resources? I think that's very important to look at, and the value of that before we even start looking at a plan and what we can or can't do. Financially, what can we afford? And I think that's going to be a big factor in where this lands and if there is a true maintenance plan of that magnitude implemented. Can we financially afford to do that and all the other things that we're doing at one time? We'll need to take a deep look at that.
Yeah, it's a good balance. It'll be interesting to see this progress over time.
Yep.
And I would like to add that on the last slide, with the $27 million a year, if we were to manage everything on those 10, 8, 5, and 3 year basis, that's more money than we have in a year.
That's more revenue than what you come in your taxes.
Exactly. So, and then you're not taking into account 1,000 miles of roadside ditches, and you're not taking into account the $100+ million in capital projects we have.
Absolutely.
So whenever you start to, throw all of that into a pot, big picture wise, it'll give us a better idea of where we need to be allocating funds. And also, I think it's really going to help us educate the public on whenever we get the complaints of, my ditch hasn't been cut in 2 years. And we can really show, it's like, yeah, we understand that. But here's what, it would cost us $4 million more a year than we have, to cut that ditch, not including your roadside ditch, not including the capital projects that protect us from surge protection and whatnot. So, no, man, just fantastic job. Your whole staff, Brian Martinez, just fabulous. So, I do see Mr. Cadenalotti, he wants to add.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, Ron, fantastic information. The data is awesome. It's unbelievable. I foresee, like what Aaron was talking about, a true maintenance plan. You take the data the HNTV is coming up with, the modeling, and you put this data alongside of it, and what it would do is help you prioritize. Regardless of whether you go by quadrants or basins, you're going to have to establish a priority, what's most important to address in any given year, for instance. But I just think it's phenomenal. Thank you for the hard work. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions or comments from Mr. Ron, I will entertain item number 8.
Motion to nap.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Cadenalotti. Hang on one second, Mr. Ron.
Thank the administration for the sandwiches between meetings.
Thank y'all for the sandwiches.
Look, this meeting, we needed that. I'd never made it.
I needed some more energy.
All right, so we did have a motion by Mr. Cadenalotti, a second by Mr. Lawler. We are adjourned.